Our college years are ones of discovery and the reflection of ourselves. And for many, it's one of the greatest challenges as we transition into working adults. In these audio confessions, you will hear two stories that share heartwarming memories, moments of peril, and transformative experiences. Stories that shape identities and redefine relationships. Welcome to College Confessions. Growing up means facing a lot of challenges, but when you have siblings, it should mean a friend to go through them alongside you, right? Wrong. In these stories, we tackle the fights, mishaps, and mayhem that can come with having siblings, and what scars these scuffles can leave.
Mine and my sister's relationship was very much fraught with a lot of arguments, a lot of conflict. It's something that honestly defined it up until the point where she moved to college and I remained in high school. And it's something that we've moved past in recent years. However, it's very much still kind of not necessarily bubbling underneath, but we both kind of understand that that is a part of our lives we've gone through. One memory in particular kind of sticks out as the moment where I really stopped trusting her as a sibling and more started to think of her as an enemy. It was a nice Saturday afternoon, clear skies, it was very warm, it felt really good outside. Our parents were out working on the yard, and my sister was doing something. I was, sitting inside, and she comes to me and she says, "Hey, I made something for you outside, do you want to come see it?" And I was like, "Of course, my sister, I trust you so much, you're so cool. Of course I will do what you ask." And I went out, and I see in our driveway she had constructed what was essentially a seesaw made out of an upturned bucket and a 2x4. I look at her and I say, "Rebecca, what is this?" And she was like, "I made a seesaw." And I said, "Okay." She said, "Do you want to try it with me?" And I said, "Absolutely." As skeptical as I was, it was still something that I was interested in doing with her. So I got on one end and she got on the other end, and she jumped up and down a couple of times. And, we did the usual seesaw thing, you go up and down. And then I decided it was a little unstable and I wanted to get off. I stepped away. I told her first, I said, "Rebecca, I'm about to, get off of this terrible contraption. You need to put your legs out." And she did. And so she was standing as I stepped away, meaning that my end of the seesaw was at the ground. And then as soon as I step off, before I even really have a chance to step away, she comes down hard, and it sends the other end of the seesaw careening into the bottom of my jaw. Immediately, blood starts pouring from my mouth. I feel my front two teeth are loose, and I start freaking out because, I think my jaw has been knocked off and I'm going to die. So I kind of stumble away. I go down to the ground, and I spit out quite a lot of blood. For a second, I thought that I had bitten my tongue out. Fortunately, I had not. I stand up, and of course, like I said, those two teeth were very loose. They later fell out. But that was sort of the moment that I realized she was not to be trusted, and she was pretty evil. However, later in life, we had a lot of back and forth, especially as we both matured and had our own things to do. We, of course, had that conflict since we went to the same high school, and we knew a lot of the same people, so she would, tell lies on my name, and I would tell lies on her name, as it goes. But later, after she went to college for film, kind of had something to bond over, and at least something that we could meet on equal grounds for, something that we could be amicable with each other. And so that kind of opened the door for us to be able to at least be on, speaking, not screaming terms. And then slowly, as we both sort of matured, think those sort of childish, petty arguments mattered a whole lot less. We were actually able to get pretty close. That's more happened in recent years since we both gotten older, but it's definitely a relationship that has been fraught with tension and aggression.
So I was adopted right from the hospital. Me and my brother were both adopted right when we were born. And when I was about 9 or 10, I think, my parents decided to start looking to adopt a third child. So my story is about that whole experience. My first thoughts when my parents told me that they wanted to adopt an older girl, I was super excited because I'd never had a sister before. I remember one day they went to go hang out with her in Atlanta because that's the foster system they were working through. She took my room, so then me and my brother shared a room for a little bit. And at first I would have quote unquote sleepovers in her room every once in a while, and we would do girl stuff. I remember her teaching me how to do makeup, and she would put these fun extensions in my hair, and we would watch movies together and eat junk food and talk about boys, all the sister stuff. And it was all good for like 2 or 3 months. I know now, I didn't know at the time that she had ADHD, and she was medicated, but after a few months she stopped taking her medication and didn't tell my parents. She had a rough background. I know her mom had, I want to say 11 kids with many different guys, so she has a big family, and her dad wasn't around, and then her mom put her in the system, I think, when she was 6 or 7. And then obviously in and out of the foster system is rough. She was going to a school for the first time ever when she moved in with us, and it was a school for kids like with learning disabilities, so she had ADHD, which is why she was there. And she made friends with this guy who lived in the same area that we did, and at one point she started sneaking out of the house a lot to go hang out with him at the park, which really scared my parents because they didn't know where she was, and she was only 16 at the time. So they tried to sit down and have talks with her because she did it a lot, and she would get really mad because she thought that my parents wouldn't give her freedom or whatever, so she would get really upset and start and break things. Somehow her birth mom found her on Facebook, and so she had to tell my parents, and then they had to get the foster system involved, which was kind of messy. So a lady would come and visit when that stuff went down, and would have to sit down and talk with her about it. She kept sneaking out and just kept, mouthing off to my parents and not understanding anything, and just would get so angry and break things, and it just eventually exploded one night, and she got really, really mad. And I remember my dad came in and took me and my brother to his and my mom's room, which was in the back of the house, and I can't believe I slept through this whole thing, but my parents told me that they had to call the cops because the girl, she hit my mom really bad and bruised her, and she was almost sent to jail, but then they called the foster agency and were like, this isn't working. So me and my brother stayed with my grandparents, and then I remember coming home the next day and all her stuff was gone, and my parents had to sit down and tell me she wasn't going to stay with us because we had never gotten to the final adoption stage yet. I finally understood it just wasn't a right fit. But I think adoption is a beautiful thing. My mom couldn't have kids, which is why her and my dad adopted me and my brother. And then obviously I think if people are wanting to foster parent, that they need to go through excessive training or research, and then go through a good set of interviews before they take in a kid, just so they know it's a fit.
Our first story, Sibling Rivalry, was produced by Scott Meekins, and Adoptive Sister was produced by Miles Davis.
Make sure to catch our future confessions. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Like and follow us on Instagram at GA Southern Film.